Hey guys, what's up? It's Mr. Miles, and I want to ask all of you a question. Have you ever had a sibling or a friend who came up to you, giggling and smirking like, and gave you a treat or a snack or something, saying, "Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with it"? Here's another one. Have you ever been on a website where you saw an ad on the side saying, "Congratulations, you've won a free cruise, all expenses paid to the Caribbean"? Or have you ever seen a little kid with chocolate all over their face claim that they had nothing to do with the missing cookies that were just on the counter? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then that means that you've experienced what's called doubt before. Doubt means we are not sure of something. We're not certain if we can say something is true or false, if the answer is yes or no. It means we're not confident in the validity of something. But why do we doubt? Is doubt a bad thing? You see, the word is often seen and used as a negative one, but it's not inherently bad at all. In fact, in the situations we just discussed, doubt is a very good thing, because if you were not to doubt, then that means you would probably be eating something you shouldn't be eating, and you'd probably have one or many viruses suddenly on your computer. Doubt is simply how we analyze a situation in order to make a good, logical decision. But we're not here to talk about our siblings and their untrustworthy ways. And we're not here to talk about these internet scams and how they want to get all your information on your computer. We're here to talk about our faith in God, and what doubt's got to do with that. You see, when it comes to our faith, doubt comes in two forms. The first being logical doubt. Logical doubt means you're struggling to believe in God, or you're doubting the existence of God because of technical reasons. The numbers just don't seem to add up for you. This often looks like having major questions that you don't seem to have answers to. Or questions like, how is the earth only 3,000 to 4,000 years old, like the Bible might suggest, as opposed to the 4.5 billion years old that scientists say it is? Essentially, logical doubt comes from any kinds of questions you have which you don't have answers for, that seem to fly in the face of your belief in God. Now, the second kind of doubt when it comes to our faith is emotional doubt. In other words, not feeling like God is real. Doubting his existence because you don't have much experience with him. Somebody with emotional doubt could feel this way because maybe when they pray, they feel like they're just talking to nobody, just talking to themselves. Maybe when they read the Bible, they're not getting this amazing experience like they feel like God is talking to them. They just feel like they're reading some old book. People struggling with this could be because they don't see God working in anybody's lives around them, that in their family members or their friends or whoever. We experience emotional doubt when we have a lack of experience with God, when we feel like he's been leaving us on red. Well, so what? Why are we talking about this? Why is this so important? Well, the truth of the matter is that these kinds of doubts, if left unchecked, if ignored, will eventually consume our entire faith until there's none of it left. So doubt then is a huge problem, right? Well, yeah, doubt is bad. It'd be much better if we didn't have doubt at all, for sure. But the real problem isn't the doubt necessarily. It's not addressing the doubt that is the issue. Because every Christian you have ever met, every Christian you know, has experienced doubt in some way, shape, or form. From your pastors, to your parents, to your teachers, to me, to your friends. Everybody experiences doubt in some way at some time. But the difference is that these people, these strong Christians you know, will deal with that doubt. They will address it. They won't let it keep growing. To illustrate this, picture like you're growing a garden. Now picture you got this nice garden behind you, you got you're growing all your favorite vegetables, you got your potatoes, you got your carrots, you got your beans, you got your radish. And let's say while keeping this garden, you notice that there's a tiny little weed in there. You hardly noticed it. It's just taking up a little bit of space over in the corner. So you just decide to ignore it. It's whatever. And you just let it be. And then about a week later, you notice that the weed is bigger and it's taking up some more room. It's spread a little bit to some different spots, but you still think, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So you continue to just water the rest of your garden, give it the compost and plant food it needs, and you just keep going about your other gardening duties. But then a couple weeks later, you come back and you notice that your garden is just covered in weeds. There's weeds everywhere. You can hardly even see your own plants anymore. And you look at all this and you say, is it even worth trying to take them all out at this point? Is it even really worth the effort? Can it even be saved? But you decide to do it. You decide to put in the effort and you start picking out all the different weeds everywhere, whatever. You take the weeds out, and after enough work and time, your garden's starting to look like a garden again. So from this experience, for the future as a gardener, what lesson did you learn? Is the lesson that weeds are bad? No. I mean, yeah, weeds are bad and you don't want them in your garden, and it'd be better if they just never came at all. But every garden gets weeds. So the lesson isn't that weeds are bad. The lesson is that you need to pick the weeds when they show up. You need to get them right away and acknowledge them and deal with them. Because if you don't, sooner or later your garden is just going to be a pile of weeds. You're not a bad gardener for having weeds in your garden. You're a bad gardener if you ignore them. And it's just the same with our faith. Everyone has doubts. They pop up in everybody's faith. It's just a part of how it works. But being a good Christian, keeping the faith, isn't about not having doubts. It's about dealing with them. Because if we let the doubts sit, multiply, thinking they're not that big, they can't cause that much damage, eventually we won't have any faith at all. It'll be completely devoured by the doubt. But how do we actually deal with doubt? What do we do about it? Well, there are a couple ways, but the best and most effective way to deal with doubt is to share it with others. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't let feelings like shame or embarrassment or the thought that there's something wrong with you keep you from sharing your doubts with others. Because there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is normal. Every garden gets weeds. And I'm willing to bet that whatever doubts you're having right now, many Christians who you know have had the same ones. If you've got logical doubts, questions you need answers for, talk to someone, ask someone who you think knows more than you. They might have answers for your questions, or they might be able to give you some perspective, or they might just be able to point you in the right direction. If you've got emotional doubts, still talk to somebody. They can give you so much compassion, understanding. They can likely share personal experiences or stories they know of people who've gone through the same thing. The enemy wants you to think that you're alone in feeling and thinking these things, when you are absolutely not. I know this story of a guy. He was a high school student and he was a Christian, and one day in class, this man came in and gave a presentation that essentially was a scientific disproving of the existence of God. He gave all these facts and all these findings and things that supposedly proved that God did not exist. And so this student, who thought he had such a solid faith, thought that he was so good with God, suddenly was having these major doubts. Suddenly his whole faith was rocked, and he didn't know if he was going to stay a Christian anymore. But he talked to his youth pastor about it. He brought it up to his youth pastor, and he said, "Man, my faith is rocked after this. It is not looking good. I don't know what to do after all these things that this guy said in our class." And so then, in response, the youth pastor said, "Let me come into your classroom. Ask your teacher if I can come into your classroom and give my own presentation on this topic." And amazingly, he did. He went into that classroom just a few days later and gave his own presentation refuting every single point that the previous man had made. Now, that's not to say that he converted everybody in that classroom to being a Christian that day. No, but he did solidify the faith of that one student. And he showed that there were answers to these questions. But none of this would have happened if this student hadn't have gone and talked to his youth pastor about it. If he had kept this to himself, he probably just would have lost his faith because of this evidence that came and flew in the face of it. By reaching out, by talking to somebody he trusted, he found the answers he was looking for. So whatever doubts you might be having, address them now while you can. If you've got questions, ask those hard questions. Ask all of the tough questions like, Why does it seem that God is so much different and almost hateful in the Old Testament compared to the New Testament? How does the story of creation go along with what scientists say about how old the earth is in evolution? Why don't I ever hear God speak to me or feel like he's communicating with me? Why don't we see as many miracles today now as we do seem to see in the Bible? If God is all-powerful and good, then why do bad things happen? And there are so many other tough but good questions you should be asking. But the thing is, every question I just listed has an answer. Most of them, several answers. So find those answers. Don't let these questions just dig away at your faith. And also admit the emotional doubts you're having, the struggles you're having in your faith. If you feel like you're not hearing from God, if you feel like whenever you read the Bible you're getting nothing from it, you feel like you're not connecting with him at all, maybe you feel upset at God because of the present circumstances you're in or something that's happened to you in life. These are all normal things that people feel. Other people in your life, I'm sure, have felt the same way or will at least understand what you're talking about and where you're coming from. So don't keep them to yourself. Let that weight off your shoulders and share it with others and find the guidance you need. Because again, while doubt, yes, is a problem, the real problem is ignoring that doubt, not addressing that doubt, not sharing it with others who can help. Look inside yourself today. Find if you have a logical doubt or an emotional doubt. Bring it to the surface and share it with somebody you trust. Because whoever you do share it with, I'm willing to bet, also has experience. Because just like in gardening, every good gardener knows how to pull weeds. It's just a part of the process. The mistake is to let them go and to not take care of them early. Deal with your doubts now, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Thank you guys so much for watching Chapel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the assembly.